So let's look at a few more basic polygon modeling tools. And today we'll look at mirroring, combining, separating, merging, extracting, Boolean. So let's say we're modeling a head. It's largely a bilaterally symmetrical object, and we finished modeling one half. Then the next thing we want to do is duplicate the other half. Now one way you can do that is go to Edit, and you've got all these duplicate options. So duplicate, Control D is just to duplicate something, and then we've got a copy of it. If we go to Edit, Duplicate Special, then we can do some other stuff. We can, let's say we want to reflect it over the x-axis, the z-axis, which is this blue line here. So I could say scale 1 in x, 1 in y, and then -1 in z. Oops, sorry, that should have been x. Let me try that again. Not in z, but in x. And then we get a duplicate of this face. Now it's not attached in any way. In fact, it's entirely a separate object. Now we could then go ahead and turn these into one object, and that would be called combining. So if I select one, Shift, select the other, and go to Mesh, Combine. There are no options here. You don't really need to change anything. And now it's all one object. We can see in the channel box, they're just called Polysurface 5 now. It's got one piece of construction history on it, PolyUnite. However, you may notice that they're actually not physically connected. Now they move together as if they're connected, but the vertices in the middle, so if I go to vertex mode and let's say grab one of these, you can see there's still a hole in the middle. So that brings us to our next command, which is merge. So merge is typically used with vertices, or perhaps it's always used just with vertices. So if I'm in vertex mode and I just select down the middle, I just want to really select right down the middle just to get the midline vertices and no others. You'll notice that when I do selections, I'll often do it in the orthographic views, so I can be sure that I'm just getting the certain ones that I want. And now we can go to Edit Mesh and Merge, and we'll get this distance threshold, and that is, it will only merge vertices that are within 0.01 units from each other. So you can see that some of these things haven't merged. So if I just start turning this up, you can see they will merge. If we turn it up too much, then we'll start getting them, all of them merging together. So this we can just tweak until it looks like we've got all of them merging without causing any problem yet. So see, there's a problem here, these midline ones merged. So yeah, you just got to tweak it a little bit. You can do more than one if it turns out to be a problem. I suspect I've got some bad merging going on actually in here with the lips, but it should be fine for now. I can always fix that later. And I can hit 3 on the keyboard. Got a nice smooth model with no problems. Now if there's a mismerge, or if there's something actually not attached, you'll sometimes see some sort of pinching. So let me just undo this. I'm going to unmerge this. And we'll go back into vertex mode and do that one more time. Select just the midline ones, but then I'm going to deselect a couple of these just so we can see what happens. Edit Mesh, Merge, go up to 0.21 or something like that, and it seems to have worked. And you can't really tell when you're in 1 mode, so low resolution mode, but if I go into 3 mode, you can see there's this kind of weird pinching here. And this is usually an indication that something was not merged. So it's probably these vertices here. Hard to say. And if I just, now if I want to use a recent command, or the last command, I can just hit Y. Or I can go into my hot box and go to recent commands, polymerge. And see, that seems to have fixed it. So if you notice that in smooth mode, it's probably because you have an unmerged vertex. Okay, so that is duplicating, and that is duplicating special, that is combining, and then merging. So let me undo way back to the beginning, delete this. So instead of doing the duplicate special and merge, we can instead go to mesh mirror, select half the head, and we want to mirror axis over the x-axis, and here we can merge border vertices by default, and it will combine with the original. Let's see if this works. Yeah, so there we go. It's done all of those steps for us, and we can still go in and change these if we want, but that looks pretty good. If I go into 3 mode, see if there's any problems with the merge. And no, that's pretty good. So mirror will automate that process for you. Again, only useful if you are doing symmetrical, bilaterally symmetrical objects. Separate. So what is separate? Well, let's take this guy's eyeballs. These are separate objects, right? But I can go in and combine them. And now they're a single object, even though they're not attached to each other in any way. Maya is treating them, if I delete their history, if I go into the node editor and map these out. So we've got, they're just considered polysphere 3 shape now. So both of these things are a single shape. But if something is a single shape but made up of spatially discrete elements, so separated in some way, physically separated from each other, if not technically separated from each other, we can go to mesh separate, and that will turn them into separate objects again. And this is not to be confused with extract. Extract is a way to go in and, let's say, take a few faces here. Let me just select a few and go to 4 mode so you can see this. And if we go to mesh, I can never remember where these things are. Not detach, extract. Separate extracted faces. Now we've extracted part of this model as a separate model. You can see its pivot point is down at the origin. If we want to center a pivot, we can go to modify center pivot, put it into place, and so on. So extract is a way to take out faces as a separate object. Okay, what else do we need to know? Well, then there are Booleans. And so what does Boolean mean? Well, Boolean is sort of a logical choice, right? It's either and or, but it's a way of combining search terms and things like that. And in 3D applications, it's a way to combine shapes or to have shapes interact with each other. So if I take a cube and I scale this up a bit, and I have it like intersecting the surface here, I can use Booleans to either combine these, cut out a shape from the other, or to make the intersection between them. And that's found here under mesh Booleans. And I'll say right now, they often don't work for mysterious reasons. I just tested this out a minute ago and it worked fine. I would not be surprised if they don't work at all right now. So if we do a union, then it combines them into a single object, these shapes together. If we go into 4 mode, you can see the inside of the cube is gone. It's just attached them here. I'm just going to undo out of that. So now if I do the same thing again and do difference, then it's going to cut the hole out. And it's important to note that the order of selection will change the result, what intersects with what. And then intersection will be the intersection between the two. Now this miraculously has worked very well. It often doesn't. If things are not working with Booleans, then the first thing to do is delete history on all your objects, just to get rid of any weird construction, and hopefully they'll work. The other thing to remember about union Booleans is that it makes really ugly geometry. So we've got one big face here and all these little faces intersecting with it. So if it's something that has to deform, Booleans are probably not your best option. If it's something that's a mechanical object that doesn't bend or change shape, then Booleans can work quite well, if they work at all. So anyway, there are a few other basic tools that you can use in Maya for making your models.